Hey everyone, Mitch coming in for the Commander Score Studio. Welcome to the show. So on today's episode, I've got some amazing underrated commanders for you and some amazing cards that work with those amazing underrated commanders. With all that said, let's jump into them. So starting things off, we've got an oldie but a goodie but a meanie. Urtai the Corrupted, a 3/4 wizard, Phyrexian, I assume. I don't know. The Oracle text will tell you that. Regardless, 4/5 mana in Esper. This was back in the day. This is sold back in the day when they had the word legend after. You know, instead of being legendary creature, it's like wizard legend. Yes, that's the thing. We got it. No, that's going to be fixed at some point. Regardless, what isn't fixed is this. Pay a blue, tap, sacrifice a creature or enchantment, counter target spell. This is so incredibly powerful, and you can do so many incredible things with it. You might be like, okay, well, I don't want to sacrifice my things. Why would I do that? Only in like a desperate scenario would I want to sacrifice something to stop my opponent from doing something. That being said, well, first of all, you can do this more than once in a turn quite easily, quite efficiently, quite effectively once you're set up properly. And number two, there are plenty of cards out there that you actually want to sacrifice. And also, of course, there's just good old creature fodder that you can make, you know, just like, it's just a bunch of zombie tokens or whatnot. Go away, I sacrifice you to counter that spell. Cool. So yeah, this second commander can do some very powerful things, can control the game in some very interesting ways, and you can get a lot of value out of weird cards like Hatching Plans, which sees like no play for good reason. This card is terrible, but it's also great. Enchantment for 2 mana in blue. When it's been the grave from the battlefield, draw 3 cards. The only problem with this card, obviously, is it gives you no way to actually get it into your graveyard. It's like, no, you sacrifice this by doing this. Nope, just sits there. So for most decks that couldn't deal with it, because your opponents surely aren't going to deal with it for you, it just sits there, and you wouldn't play it. But with this deck, you're like, okay, I put this in play, and your opponent's like, oh, great, so when I cast something that they want to counter, they get to counter it for a single blue mana, tapping their commander and drawing 3 cards. So yeah, being able to get amazing death triggers, LTB triggers can be great with this kind of a commander. Also, get rid of permanents that you don't want anymore, like Treacherous Blessing. Like, thank you. Oh no. Enchantment for 3 mana in black, enters battlefield, draw 3 cards. Again, great. 3 mana for 3 cards. That's amazing. There's got to be no downside to, okay, wait, read the fine print. Whenever you cast a spell, lose 1 life. Oh, that's not good. Also becomes the target of a spell or ability, you sacrifice it. So yes, you will be sacrificing it with your commander or whatever else essentially. But yes, you can actually get rid of it to ensure that you aren't losing out on that life throughout the game. You're just getting to cheat and say, you know what, I get those 3 cards, I'm good to go. Moving on, Guile. You can take advantage of this amazing, weird bird, fish, lizard thing. 6/6 Elemental Incarnation, because that's what it is, for 6 mana in blue. Guile can't be blocked except by 3 or more creatures, so Super Menace, I guess. They need a name for that, don't they? If a spell or ability you control would counter a spell, instead exile that spell, and you may play a card paying its mana cost. Ooh, that's spicy with this commander. And also, sure, it's got the whole Shuffle Hulk thing or whatever, but it's not or Shuffle Titan, Shuffle Hulk, whatever it is, Shuffle Titan. Yeah, it doesn't shuffle everything, but it shuffles itself, hits the graveyard. We don't really care about that. What we care about is, hey, when I counter one of your things with my commander's ability, I get to steal it. It is now mine. So good luck trying to stop me from taking over the world. All right, we also have Ashiok's Reaper. Again, if you can go, you can choose, either a creature-based strategy or an enchantment-based strategy. A mixture of both if you want. If you want to go really heavily into enchantments, though, Ashiok's Reaper is crazy good. 3/3 Nightmare for 4 mana in black. Whenever an enchantment you control is from the grave from the battlefield, draw a card. So you're going to get extra value out of sacrificing those enchantments. Again, go wide with enchantments, get a lot of things in play. Save them up, and when you need to, sacrifice them with your commander and replace them with a card in your hand. Absolutely incredible. Reassembling Skeleton. Again, if you're going the creature fodder direction, maybe choose this instead. A 1/1 Skeleton Warrior for 2 mana in black. Pay 2, 1 in a black. Return from your graveyard to the battlefield, tapped. So you can sacrifice it again and again. And again, it's amazing creature fodder. But of course, you can just go wide with, like, you can't go wide with this, but you can get a lot of creature fodder with it. I'll explain. Dreadhorde Invasion, enchantment for 2 mana. That it's kind of like Bitter Blossom, but worse than Bitter Blossom. Beginning of your upkeep, you lose 1 life and you amass 1. Amass, if it went wide, would be better. It doesn't. It goes tall. That being said, what you do is you just say, okay, I've got this 1/1 zombie. I'm going to sacrifice it to counter your spell. Cool. Next turn, I get another 1/1 zombie. I'm going to sacrifice it to counter your spell. You're just going to keep doing that so you ensure that you don't just go tall with it. I mean, it's not the worst thing if you go tall with it, but obviously you want to make the most out of this. And this is just like 1 extra counter spell every single turn. Absolutely lovely. Iorith, I can never remember how to say that name. The Healing House, a 1/4 human cleric for 2 mana in blue. Tap, untap another target permanent. Tap, untap 2 other target legendary creatures. So if you got another legendary in play, great. If not, yeah, having repeatable tap effects like this regardless are incredible. Being able to just say, okay, I untap my commander, I do it again. Every single one of these kind of untap effects that is repeatable is basically you get to activate your commander again, which equals you get to counter something again for sacrificing a creature or enchantment, which might even give you value. Rule of law. Okay, this is where you can get a little mean. Just a little mean. I mean, the commander is already a little mean, right? But if you want to get really mean with this, this is brutal. Champ for 3 mana in white. Each player can't cast more than 1 spell each turn. Now, this does apply to you as well, but here's the thing. Your commander's activated ability is not a spell, and your opponents can only cast 1 spell on their turn. So they cast a spell, and then they're like, okay, I cast it, and you're like, I counter it. And they're like, well, I guess that's my turn. I got nothing else I can do. Next player goes up. Okay, I'm going to cast a spell. You're like, wait, I untap my commander. I counter that spell. They're like, oh, okay, I guess that's all I could do. So yes, a card like this can be brutal, can be efficient, can be effective, can be just downright mean, but so effective with this commander. There's so many gross, disgusting, amazing things you can do. And again, it's a commander, which I love the type of commander that can actually make cards like Hatching Plans, which sees no play because it's kind of garbage for most decks out there, into a very good card because you can have a lot of amazing synergies with that. Yeah, Urtai the Corrupted, definitely an underrated commander. Next up, one of the OG Sultai commanders, I think these days just kind of is forgotten in a way. Like, it really doesn't overall have that many decks to its name anymore at all. And there's so many cool things that you can do with it. Damia, Sage of Stone, a 4/4 Gorgon Wizard that makes you skip your draw step, but it has Death Touch for 7 mana and Sultai, and if that was it, you would never see play. But also it, of course, has this. Beginning of your upkeep, if you have fewer than 7 cards in your hand, draw cards equal to the difference. Yeah, you can replace your entire hand every single turn. Isn't that lovely? Isn't that amazing? And you might be like, well, I only play so many cards in a turn, so like maybe I'll just be drawing 2, which is not bad to be back up to 7, but I wouldn't be drawing. Oh no, you're going to basically replace your hand every single time because there's some spicy things that you can do with this commander. Like you can utilize cards like Scourge Familiar, a 3/2 for Rexian Imp with flying that costs 5 mana in black. Discard a card and black. A free discard outlet that is not only free, but it is a card that gives you value. If you literally just wanted to go, I discard my hand, I make 7 mana. Yay, good for me. I mean, you better have something to use that mana for, but yeah, you should use that mana for something. So maybe discard 6 and then play something. There you go. But then, yeah, you go to your turn, you have no hand, and you're like, oh, I got no hand. No, I do. It's 7 cards. Yay, I'm back up to that. Having discard outlets can be absolutely huge. Zombie Infestation is one of my favorite cards of all time to build around. Enchant for 2 mana in black, discard 2 cards, create 2/2 black zombie. You can just turn your hand. Again, like, technically, right, you're at 7, so it's like, wish I was at 8, but still. Mail discard down and make 3 zombies every trip around the table. Of course, there's ways to pump them, ways to get extra value out of them, ways to sacrifice them, ways to get even more of these. I guess I got a higher budget. You're like, yeah, okay, I could have a damage doubler. Not a damage doubler in these colors. I guess power doubler you could go with to make them more powerful, but also like token doublers too. Do a lot of crazy things with that. Or like Io's Influence. Turn your useless lands in your hand that are sometimes useless into creatures. Discard a land, make a 2/2 bear. Champ for 3 mana. So basically, again, turn those cards in your hand into production outside of just playing them. And of course, you can find ways to actually play them out of your graveyard too. Maybe some reanimation effects, maybe some other effects like flashback, etc. Maybe some ways to make it so that you're not just drawing a new hand each turn, but 2 hands each turn. Thought, Reflection, and Champ for 7 mana. If you draw a card, draw 2 cards instead. So instead of drawing up to 7, you draw up to 14 every single one of your turns. Your opponents are going to be super jealous of that. Psychosis Crawler, they're also going to be super gone when you have this in play. Power Touch equal to the number of cards in your hand, so keep that in mind. If you want to keep it around, don't just discard your entire hand. That being said, whenever you draw a card, each opponent loses 1 life. So again, if you're saying drawing 6 cards, great. Drain each opponent 6. That's 3 opponents, 18 life in total. Could be even more again with a Thought Reflection. Have fun with that. Feast of Sanity, another great way to take advantage of the other end of things. Discarding, whenever you discard a card, 1 damage to a target, you gain 1 life. You can gain a lot of life throughout the game with this. You can take out things with this. You can take out your opponents with this. What's not to love? Also get even more value out of those discards. Again, yeah, you can get value out of it by just, like, making a couple mana. You know, that's great. Okay, making some creatures. But also, you can just make permanent land ramp. Lovely with this. 1 and a green, tap, discard a card in your hand. Go get a basic land to play, tap, to shuffle your library. Essentially, you turn every single one of the cards in your hand into rampant growth. And, yeah, that can be quite spicy. Containment Construct, speaking of spicy, though, hey, you know the downside of this commander? There's not really one anymore. Whenever you discard a card, you may exile a card from your graveyard. If you do, you may play a card this turn. So, turning those cards that you are discarding into actual, like, impulse draw, essentially, so you can utilize them. Great. Utilize them, and then all of a sudden, next turn, replace your hand, rinse and repeat, do it again. Dami of Sage of Stone, a very cool commander. One that, again, we've gotten so many commanders over the years since this one came out, and Sultai is a very, very, very popular color combination. It's a very, very, very cool card. There's a lot of cool things that you can do with it. A commander that can take advantage of discarding in a way that many other commanders cannot. Dami of Sage of Stone, definitely an underrated commander these days. Next up, Grothama. This thing is weird and amazing. A 10/8 worm for 5 mana in green. Oh, okay. Well, is that it? No, not at all. Other creatures have. Whenever this creature attacks, you may have it fight Grothama all devouring. When it leaves the battlefield, each player draws its cards equal the amount of damage dealt to Grothama. This are my sources they controlled. This is one of the weirdest commanders out there. Was this the very first worm commander? I don't know. And nobody like, Morophon! No, that doesn't count. Number 1. Number 2, I think this one came out before. I don't know. Anyways, it's a very spicy card. It is one that says, you know what? I'm a giant threat. I'm a 10/8 for 5. But also everything can fight me. Which is kind of sad for this poor worm. It just wants to exist and you're not letting it. And actually, you yourself are not going to be letting it. You're going to be like, yeah, I'm just actually going to take you out and I'm going to draw 8 or so cards each time. This is a giant, massive draw spell from your command zone that you also can take advantage of its power in many other ways. And also you can take advantage of its power and its fighting in really weird, strange ways too. Let's talk about some cards first, like Spearbreaker Behemoth. Of course, if you want to keep it around, you can. In like Teamers Sabertooth type things, you can be like, okay, I hit it. I bounce it. Yay, I draw cards. It does take some setup to do those kind of things, but still, having this card in your deck is amazing. A 5/5 indestructible beast that can pay 1. Target creature with power 5 or greater gains indestructible every turn. So, you can make any of your things indestructible, so all your things can swing to their heart's content, fight Grothama, and take it out. And you say, all right, good job taking out my own commander. And then your creature's like, this is a really weird deck. And you're like, yes, it is. And then, consider this. Your opponents, if Grothama somehow survives your turn, you didn't get yourself set up properly in that way, or something got taken out, or whatever, your opponents are like, oh, yes, we are ready now to swing and take out Grothama and draw cards. And they talk like that. And then you're like, 1 mana, Grothama's indestructible. No. Your opponents don't get any of those cards. Those are your cards to draw. That is your Grothama. You show them who's boss. With a very old janky card called Saber Ants. What a weird card. 2/3, insect for 4 mana. These bugs are scary. Whenever it's dealt damage, you put that many 1/1 green insect creature tokens into play. There's also another one, like I think it's like a Nantuko that does the same thing that also has Morph. I could have shown that one, but this was just so old and weird. Hornet's Nest, also technically better, really. No, it has Defender, though, so it's not really better. Anyways, this one, you swing at your commander, and you're like, oh no, I'm taking out Saber Ants. I guess you could make it indestructible a couple ways, though, too. Regardless, you're still making, at the very least, 10 ants. Not ants, insects. You know what I mean. But making an army out of nowhere, pretty cool for this little card right here. Your opponent's like, that's weird. That's from, I can't remember what that one's called. What is that one? Mercadian Masks. Got it. But yes, do not be fooled unless you have other fight effects. Like Hornet Nest could work with that too, but don't be fooled because this one can't attack. So that's unfortunate. Psychosis Crawler, though, I just mentioned that in a previous one. This one says, hey, you know what? I can help out in a couple of ways. Number 1, I'm a star. So my power notes equal number of cards in my hand. If you have like no maximum hand size cards like Thought Vessel, great. This can be absolutely massive swing at your commander. You can draw like 20 cards or so. I mean, Or not. Anyways, whenever you're drawing cards, each opponent loses 1 life, which is lovely. Being able to have your opponents lose a ton of life whenever you're drawing cards off your own commander is great. Borrow Worm Speaker. Speak to the worms, including your commander. A 3/3 human druid for 4 mana in green. Worms you control get +2/+2 and have trample. Turning your commander into a 2-shot KO on any opponent with that trample to get damage through. You can also pay a single green mana because your commander, create a 4/4 green worm creature token, costs X less to activate, Rexy Grace Power worms you control. Your commander is 10. You're going to be able to activate this for 1. Congratulations. Have fun. Also have fun with a lot of mana. Tanuki Transplanter, a 2/4 equipment dog, because that's a thing. Whenever it or equipped creature attacks, add an amount of green equal to its power until end of turn. You don't lose mana except phase end. Even if you're just swinging with your commander, that's like, hey, 10. But you might even have even bigger creatures out there with this kind of a deck when you're making this work, and you can get even more mana. Regardless, make a ton of mana, have fun. Power Matters type synergies work great with this, and like doubling power synergies work too. Return of the Wild Speaker, yeah, this is a crazy good card. Choose 1, draw cards equal to Grace Power among non-human creatures. Your commander's not a human. Do you control? Non-human creature control +3. We'll soon until turn, so a surprise pump effect if you need it, or just, hey, instant speed, 5 mana, draw at the very least 10. Yeah, that's lovely without losing your commander. Next up, your commander can come in handy in other ways too. Dragon Throne of Tarkir, again, really good with power doubling too as well. But even if not, hey, pay 2, tap other creatures you control, gain trample, and get +X/+X until turn, X this creature's power. Pump your creatures to oblivion, again, +10/+10. Your opponents are going to be in a lot of trouble. And of course, you can have like even your smallest creature then take out Grothama, draw you a bunch of cards, do some crazy things. This is a very weird, very underrated commander. You can do a lot of really crazy things with like what other commanders like have the potential to just draw you an absurd amount of cards out of your command zone. Yeah, you might have to keep like replaying it, but like who cares? You're in green, you can pay for it. So yeah, Grothama, I love you. You're a great commander. Congratulations on making this episode. You are an underrated commander. Moving on, we've got Quintorius, Field Historian. Artorias. Anyone else think of like Dark Souls with Artorias? No, just me. Okay, anyways. Quintorius, Field Historian, a 2/4 Elephant Cleric for 5 mana in Boros. Here's the thing. Before I even get into what this commander does, look at that symbol right there. When you see the uncommon symbol, be honest with yourself, you immediately think it's going to be a weak commander, right? There's definitely a lot of amazing, powerful commanders out there that are uncommon. I should probably do an episode at some point where I just like cover like the best uncommon commanders at some point. Because again, Wizards makes mistakes sometimes. We're like, this is uncommon. Tatiova is definitely uncommon. Land comes into play, draw a card, and gain a life, definitely uncommon. They're wrong. Okay, they're wrong. I love this commander. Spiritual control at +1/+0. Whenever 1 or more cards leave your graveyard, create a 3/2 red and white spirit creature token. Now, they did limit this commander. That 1 or more is a limitation on this and maybe needed. We can debate that, you know, because you could just like put, what is that one that costs 0 and it takes out your entire graveyard? Whatever that one is. Artifact, tap, sacrifice it. Tormod's Crypt, is that the one? I don't know why it's escaped me right now, but you could just like, oh, I've got 40 cards in my graveyard. Boop, my graveyard's gone and I get 40 creatures. Ha ha ha. Is that the worst thing to allow that to happen? Probably not, but like, it makes you have to build around it a bit more thoughtfully to actually take advantage of this commander. Because again, if you have, say, 40 cards in your graveyard, you can still get 40 spirits. It just takes a little bit more time and a little bit more finessing in how this actually works. So if you go one at a time, you get all those triggers and you can get a massive army. And again, it's not limited to just your turn. So like, right before your turn, if you've got some effects that can do some crazy things that get rid of things out of your graveyard in one way or another, great. Make spirit after spirit after spirit after spirit. And again, they're 3 2s, but they're actually really 4 2s. So pretty powerful, and there's ways to make even more powerful. First up, Squee Goblin to Bob, a card that is kind of hot garbage in Commander or in any other format for the most part. But Squee is great here. A 1/1 Goblin for 3 mana in red. If your upkeep may return Squee from graveyard to your hand. I guess the other Squee is really good because you can play from exile and it comes with like Food Chain, but like this is not that one. Regardless, this is one that, hey, you get in your graveyard. Next turn, like, oh, Squee, you're back. Cool. All right, I discard you with this effect. Okay. See you again shortly. Next turn. Oh, I get it again. Every single time you get Squee back out of your graveyard. Because again, when your cards in your graveyard go anywhere, again, the words are whenever one of our cards leave your graveyard, doesn't matter if they're going here, there, anywhere. Doesn't matter if they're being exiled. Doesn't matter if they go to your hand. Doesn't matter if they go back in your library. Doesn't matter if they go on the battlefield. Whatever it is, you get a spirit. So Squeeze says, oh no, I'm back to the hand. Oh no, back to the graveyard, back to the hand, back to the graveyard. And every single time you get a little spirit to remember Squeeze. Faithless Looting, a single red mana, draw 2, discard 2, flash it back. A crazy good card. Keep in mind with flashback cards, those cards are leaving your graveyard because you're like, okay, cool. All right, yeah. Go away, exile it. But also with this one, you can get things into your graveyard. Again, that looting effect can be great. Absolutely amazing. Obviously, rummaging effects help too. Shenanigans, a really cool name card. Sorcery for 2 mana, short target artifact. If that was just it, this would be terrible with Seed play, but it has Dredge 1, which means you can get it back out of your graveyard while also milling yourself 1. So again, filling your graveyard is a good thing with this commander. And also, well, destroying artifacts is nice for you, but also being able to get this out of your graveyard, which again triggers your commander. Every single time you dredge this, you get a, I was going to say 3/2 spirit, but it's basically a 4/2 spirit. Next up, Containment Construct. Maybe one of the best ways to do this. 2/1 Construct for 2 mana. Whenever you discard a card, you may exile a card from your graveyard. If you do, you may play that card this turn. Please let me know, rules layers out there. If you wheel, do you get the full thing? Like, if I discard 7 cards, do I get 7 spirits or do I get just 1 spirit? Because, like, all the discarding happens at once, kind of. And this triggers at once. I don't know if you get 7 or not. But regardless, if you got ways to discard things 1 at a time, cool. You can make a spirit every single time you do that because it hits your graveyard and then it goes away. It's not like a replacement effect that's like, if it were to hit a graveyard, it doesn't. Haha. Like Rest in Peace kind of thing. Don't play Rest in Peace with this commander. Ox of Agonis. A 4/2 Ox for 5 mana in red. Enters the battlefield, discard your hand, then draw 3 cards. I probably should have mentioned with that Containment Construct, obviously getting Impulse Draw out of the cards you're discarding is amazing too. Regardless, with this one, a different kind of advantage. Discard your hand, which again can be a good thing, and draw 3. So again, replace your hand in a way, or like if you don't have any cards in your hand, draw 3, great. Red, exile 8 other cards from your graveyard, and also it escapes the counters on it. So if you need to, cool. Get rid of some cards in your graveyard, which again gives you 1 spirit. Yes, just 1, but still, you can fill your graveyard again with some more discard, draw some more cards, and have some fun with that. Magus the Wheel. Wheel effects are going to be great with this commander. Fill your graveyard quickly, fill it effectively, utilize your cards. 1 a red tap, sacrifice this. Everyone discards their hand, draws 7s. Keep that in mind. Lion Sash. I love this card. It's incredible. Did you know your commander can become a one-shot KO with this, maybe even? A 1/1 Equipment Cat, because that's a thing, for 2 mana in white. Pay a white, exile target card from a graveyard. If it was a permanent card, put a counter on Lion Sash. Quick creature gets +1 for each counter on Lion Sash, and as reconfigured, so you can attach to a creature, like your commander, to take people out. And, yeah, this is a repeatable 1 mana way to exile things from your graveyard. So again, it's basically pay a single white mana, get rid of something in your graveyard, make a 4/2 spirit again and again and again, while also getting counters on this to make it more massive, or, you know, to make the creature it's attached to more massive as well. Even a garbage card like Alms can see play in Commander. You know how garbage this is? It forces you to keep track of the order of your graveyard. Do you know how many cards do that? Not many, and they don't ever do it ever again because it's obnoxious, and like people sort through their graveyards all the time. You're like, oh, how many creatures do I have in here? Okay, move, move, move. No, you can't do that. Technically, you can't do that because cards like Alms exist. You can't move cards around if you're playing with a card like this, which is actually kind of funny to think about. Judges out there. I mean, I know, okay, Commander is a more fun format, right? It is not a tournament format. But here's a question. In a Commander tournament, if I was to play Alms and then donate it to my opponent who wasn't keeping track of their graveyard and was mixing things around, do they just lose because they technically broke the rules? Technically, judges out there, I mean, that's no fun at all, like, doing that way. But, like, it's a weird thing, right, to keep track of your graveyard order. It is. Enchant for a single white mana. I should probably say what this does. Pay 1. Exile the top card of your graveyard. Prevent 1 damage to any creature. And yes, the Oracle text still says top card of your graveyard. So you cannot move things around. So weird. So, like, this one is better but worse than the Lion thing. It's better because it's a single generic mana, right? So you don't have to just, you know, save up all your white mana for that. That being said, it's worse because you don't always want to get rid of the top one, but you're going to keep doing that. That's fine. And also, it doesn't turn to a giant lion cat or an equipment. But yes, still, Alms, janky. Again, any commanders that can utilize garbage cards like this, I love. It's 14 cents for a reason. Rage Reflection. Hey, you're making that giant army of 4/2 spirits. And again, I'm going to keep saying 4/2 because Artorias. I just said Artorias. Artorias is in play. Let's double up them. Let's say, you know what? Instead of hitting for 4, you're hitting for 8. You're also protected more in combo with that first strike. you can make your army absolutely devastating with something like this. Quintorius Field Historian, I love you. You are a great commander. You're not uncommon in my book. You're a very cool, spicy commander that is underrated. I love you, Quintorius Artorius Field Historian. Moving on, a very creepy commander, Nin the Paint Artist, which looks like she should be in, like, Grixis probably, but, you know, is it? Okay, anyways. 1/1 Vidalcan Wizard for Is It Colors. Pay a X and Is It Colors. Tap. Deals X damage to target creature. That creature's controller draws X cards. Yeah, she just looks creepy. She looks evil. I mean, like, you don't see too many. I mean, you do see some, like, evil scientist, is it, I guess. But, like, this one seems especially like, here, I have this needle. I'm coming for you. Ha. Anyways. That is a really cool effect. That is a really cool ability. Let's just throw the obvious part out there, okay? You can, obviously, if you go infinite, all right, you make infinite mana, you can take someone out with this, okay? Let's just put that out there. That's not how I'm going to be building the deck, all right? But you can do that. If you've got infinite mana, you just say, hey, you, and they say, well, yes. And you're like, okay. Ideal, you have a creature, right? Oh, yeah, you have I have a creature, yeah, okay. I deal 1,000 damage to that. Oh, no. Okay, well, it's gone. Oh, and I have to draw 1,000. Oh, I can't draw 1,000. Okay, I lose. Yeah. You can definitely win in that way. And, of course, I mean, the way to probably win that way is that you'd actually target one of your own things first. You draw, like, 60 cards or so, or maybe, like, your entire deck. And then you've got some untap effects. And then you could untap your commander. And then you use infinite mana, take one player out. Untap your commander, use infinite mana, take another player out. Untap your commander, do it again with the last player. You can win in that way, okay? Or, and I'm not saying that's a wrong way to win, but a more casual way to win, Body of Knowledge. A really cool spicy card. Star. Powerhouses, each number of cards in your hand, no maximum hand size. Whenever it's dealt damage, draw that many cards. This is spicy for so many reasons. Number one, it lets you have no maximum hand size, which is great for this commander because this commander, you're going to be incentivized to target your own things and draw X cards again and again and again. It also says, hey, I'm going to be absolutely giant. The more cards you draw, the more power I get. Oh, and by the way, by hitting me and drawing that many cards, you're doubling that up. You're drawing twice as many. Lovely. So this can be a massive threat. Absolutely no time that draws you twice as many cards. This card's amazing. Brash Taunter. I love this card. 1/1 Indestructible Goblin for 5 mana. The tiniest little dude on the block that's like, hit me. Come after me. Please. And then is fine to get hit. Whenever it's dealt damage, it deals that much damage to target opponent. Pay 3 and tap. Fight another target creature. You can do that, I guess. If an opponent is a giant creature, great. If not, just use Nin to, like, smack this thing with that syringe or whatever it does, and then you just draw a ton of cards. And then also punish an opponent. So it's kind of like turning all your draw now into burn spells, which is amazing. Yeah, Blazing Sunsteel kind of just does that. +1/0 for each opponent you have to equip creature. Whenever equipped creature is dealt damage, deals that much damage to any target. So yes, equip one of your creatures, smack it with your own commander, and say, you take some pain as well while I draw these cards. All the downside to you, all the upside to me. Donna Noble, Soulbound. Whenever it or a creature it's paired with is dealt damage, deals that much damage to target opponent. So yeah, paired up with a creature, have that creature take the ouchies, and then dish out the damage while drawing cards. While you're drawing cards, also make Chasm Skulker massive. Whenever you draw a card, you get a counter on this. This is a creature that starts off small, but you can make it bigger and bigger and bigger, to the point where, like, if you don't have, say, an indestructible creature like Brash Taunter out there, you can just make this large enough so that you can't actually take it out. And every single time you try to take it out, which you're not really trying to do, you give it more counters. So then you keep doing that. And then when this does get taken out, you get a 1/1 blue square creature token with, don't forget this, and it's Island Walk. I don't know why they put that on there, but they did. Rex number of charge counters on it. Number of counters on it. So yes, essentially, you can grow this. You can make an army out of nowhere with this. You can do a lot of crazy things with this. And it lets you just draw a lot of cards again and again and again. Darksteel Mirror, even a useless card like this. Okay, you're not useless, Darksteel Mirror. You're just not very good in many decks. A 0/1 mirror with indestructible. It costs 3 mana. That's all it does. But it doesn't matter how much mana you put into that X. This Darksteel Mirror would just stay there. You're like, I have all the mana in the world. Boom. Take that. And Darksteel Mirror's like, take what? Hope you like your cards. Thank you. So yeah, you can actually just use even just wimpy little cards like this that are indestructible. Next up, Dramatic Reversal. Of course, untap effects can be amazing with this commander. Here's the thing. A commander that has a ability that is a tap effect that can draw you a good amount of cards if you can keep on tapping it, as well as maybe your, mana rocks or whatnot. You can keep doing that again and again and again. Untap on all permanent you control and speed for 2 mana. So yeah, if you got that extra 2 mana lying around, if you just drew 10 cards, cool. Untap your commander and all your things. Tap them again for mana. And then all of a sudden, draw more things. And then all of a sudden, untap your commander again and do it again. Maybe you've got a way to get this back in your hand. Maybe you've got a way to copy it. You've got a lot of ways you can take advantage of this. And of course, Isochron Scepter, infinite mana, infinite activations. You win. Take your opponents out with an in. Yes, that's a way for it as well. So keep that in mind. Psychosis Crawler, though, again, I've mentioned this, I think, 3 times in this episode. My goodness. Obviously, though, whenever you draw a card, you probably lose 1 life. That's the way to do it. Also, you can make this absolutely massive with this commander, too, so keep that in mind. Nimizit Perrin. Can't be countered flying. Whenever you draw a card, 1 damage to any target. Whenever a player casts an instant source spell, you draw a card. First up, this can just give you an absurd amount of card advantage throughout the game. Whenever your opponents are casting any instant sorceries, congratulations, you can trip when they do so in yours as well. But yeah, when you activate Nin, you're like, okay, I deal a lot of damage to this. I draw a bunch of cards in. It's like, did you say draw cards? Damage, 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 damage. You also might utilize, again, some like damage doubling or damage tripling effects of this commander already, so that really works well with this. Turning the one little pinging effect to either a shock or a lightning bolt is quite nice. Expedite Inheritance is one you need to be careful with, but is quite spicy with this kind of a commander. Yeah, whenever a creature is dealt damage, the controller may exile that many cards to the top of their library. They may play those cards until the end of the next turn. It basically is massive impulse draw on top of the actual draw you are getting. You don't want to necessarily get rid of, all the cards in your library unless you could Lab Maniac win, which you can do that with this commander too. So there's a lot of different directions that you can take this commander. It's not just for infinite combos, okay? There's a lot of spicy things that you can do with it. I think this one should see more play. It's definitely, in my opinion, an underrated commander, Nin the Pain Artist. And finally, the underrated commander for the day. The final one is Jacob Hawken, Inspector. Don't know why I always think that Jacob Hawken talks like that, but he does. He's a detective. I'm coming for you. I don't know. Anyways, 0/2 Human Advisor for 2 mana in blue. Ignore that terrible impression. Tap, draw a card, then exile a card from your hand face down. You may look at the top card for as long as it remains exiled. You may pay 4 blue. If you do, transform it. And it flips over into Hawken's Insight. Hawken's Insight. Legendary enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top card of your library face down. You may look at the card for as long as it remains exiled. Once during each of your turns, you may play a land or cast a spell from among the cards exiled with this permanent without paying its mana cost. Here's the thing. Wizards, thank you. I love Merfolk Looters in the command zone. Now, this is slightly different than a Merfolk Looter in that Merfolk Looter is like, hey, tap, draw a card, discard a card. Looting. That's where looting comes from, I believe, right? Let me know in the comments below if I'm wrong on that, but I believe the term looting comes from Merfolk Looter. Draw a discard. This is draw exile, which is typically worse because you don't get access to that card. But you kind of do because the backside of this card is like, oh, let's play things for free. Like mini Omniscience in a way with a little bit of a draw engine in it because you're getting that exile. It's not like draw, but it's impulse, delayed, weird Omniscience draw. Let's just say that. So be able to cast giant things for free. Who doesn't like that? Just be able to be like, giant spell, boop, giant spell, boop. And of course, there's ways to take advantage of this as well. First up, Sphinx the Second Son, a 6/6 Sphinx that costs 8 mana with flying. Beginning of your post-combat main phase, additional beginning phase after this phase, which includes untap, upkeep, and draw. Again, on the enchantment side, Hawken's Insight, that is an upkeep trigger. So you can get additional things exiled, and you can actually get more things to get more access to cast bigger things. And you also get to draw cards with this too, which is just lovely. Vizier of Tumbling Sands, again, like I talked about, the last commander. Untap effects are great with it. Being able to just tap to untap into a target permanent equals another Merfolk loot type thing, and getting more of those cards into exile. More card selection, digging down into your deck. What's not to love about that? Temporal Anchor. Beginning of your upkeep, scry too. Whenever you choose to put one or more cards on the bottom of your library while scrying, exile that many cards to the bottom of your library. During your turn, you may play cards exiled with it. So some initial card selection, which is great, / like temporary card advantage, but also be able to say, hey, I know what card I'm drawing next. I don't necessarily want to get that and then exile with my commander. So let's dig down further. Sure, I can maybe still play these or whatever right now, but I'm hoping to get to something better off the top of my library that I can exile and I can then play for free. Like, Aminatu's Augury. What's great? One free thing, more free things. Sorcery for 8 mana, exile the top 8 cards of your library, play a land card from among them. Until end turn, for each non-land card type, you may cast a spell of that type without paying its mana cost. From the exile cards, I should say. Anyways, basically 8 mana or free with your commander's enchantment side, and you get to cast a lot of things for free. More free giant things in a deck that likes to have giant things. Mind's Dilation, enchantment for 7 mana. Whenever an opponent casts their first spell each turn, that player exiles the top card of the library. It's a non-land card. You may cast a card paying its mana cost. This card, when I started Commander, was very budget friendly. Then all of a sudden, it's like $4 or $5 or whatever it was. Finally budget friendly again with some reprints. This can be spicy. This can be huge. Again, all of a sudden you're like, oh, yeah, now I get your big things off the top library too. Have fun casting spells. Thank you. Thought Reflection. Again, I think I mentioned this one a couple times now too. If you draw a card, draw 2 cards instead. Cheat this one to play with your backside commander, and then all of a sudden be like, oh, okay, every single time I tap my commander, later on, if I have, my commander gets dealt with, I get back and play, whatever it is, or just earlier on if you actually play this. Cool. Tap, draw 2, exile 1. Now instead of card selection, that is straight up card advantage. Takes even more advantage of those all and tap effects. Thrixie, Sudden Storm. You're going to have a lot of high mana value things. Protect them. 4 or 5 elemental, giant, flash, and flying spells you cast with mana value 7 or greater. Cost 1 less, can be countered. So first of all, some cost reduction can be nice when you're actually casting them, but also, yeah, being able to be like, oh, I didn't pay for this, and also, you can't counter it. Really good with Artisan of Kozilek. Keep in mind, again, is going to be able to take advantage of cast triggers because you are casting them. 10-9 Eldrazi for 9 mana. When you cast a spell, you may return target creature card from your grave of the battlefield, which might be a massive one because you have some massive cards in the stack. Annihilator 2. Yeah, that is just brutal. That is effective. There's a lot of just giant things you can cheat into play. Hawkins Insight / Jacob Hawken Inspector. A very cool, in my opinion, underrated commander. I just love those Merfolk Looter type commanders that are like, okay, early on, some great additional card selection. Again, you're not going to get stuck with those giant cards in your hand that you don't want to cast because you can actually just exile them, save them for later, save them for that Hawkins Insight, and then utilize that insight to cast them for free. Jacob Hawken Inspector. Jacob Hawken Inspector. You're underrated. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.